Stop me if you've heard this before, but it seems like GameCube is finally coming to the Nintendo Switch in 2023, but not the way that you're probably hoping for. I think a lot of us are hoping for the fact that one day more consoles will be added to the Nintendo Switch's online service. Comparing it to previous entries that we've gotten on the Virtual Console, it's paltry. Your Virtual Console on the Wii U had freaking DS and Wii games on there. You had all sorts of stuff on there. But when it came to, stuff on the Nintendo Switch, you've gotten your typical stuff, your NES, your Super NES, your Genesis, your, of course, N64, and that's it. And that's what sort of Nintendo is treating this like, and it seems like going forward, that's going to sort of be the move. So what do I mean by the GameCube finally coming to the Nintendo Switch? Remakes. Now, we actually talked about this last year. I'm pretty sure I made a very similar video last year talking about the GameCube potentially finally coming to the Nintendo Switch, but with the start of the new year, there's new rumors from new insiders, and I don't know, take this all with a grain of salt. It is just sort of speculation, but it's something that we've heard a lot about before. Something like the Metroid Prime trilogy. We've been hearing about that forever, and I swore ever talking about that again. I said, no, we're not talking about that anymore. So we're not talking about the trilogy. We are talking about the Metroid Prime remaster. So what is the source of this information? Of course, it comes from Nate Drake, aka Nate the Hate, aka people call him an industry insider, but it's weird because he's never called himself an industry insider. He just has a lot of information about stuff. Well, this information got out over the weekend. People are talking about it, so we are going to talk about it and sort of see what is going on with this. Nate the Hate boldly claims F-Zero's time will come in 2023. This is coming to us from My Nintendo News, and we're basically going to be talking about some of this stuff. Podcaster, an occasional gaming insider, not all the time, just occasionally. Nate the Hate boldly claimed yesterday that F-Zero's time will come in 2023. This rumor follows a number of insiders such as Emily Rogers and Liam Robertson, who said a few months back that Nintendo is currently looking to remaster a lot of older content which they created for their legacy gaming systems. The F-Zero game mentioned is presumably a remaster of the GameCube title F-Zero GX, which originally saw the light of day in 2003 and was a joint production between Amusement Vision and published by Nintendo. As always, this is a rumor, so please take it with a grain of salt. And over on Reset Era, this is the source of this, Nate said F-Zero's time will come in 2023. He then talked a little bit about Metroid Prime 1 remake, remaster, whatever the hell it's going to be. As for Metroid Prime 1, Retro completed development on the game in late summer of 2021. For clarity, development finished then. It still had to go through Q&A, any localizations and such. The game has been finished for some time now. Nintendo has just opted to announce it and bring it, or has just opted to wait to announce it and bring it to the market for whatever reason. So this is something, like I said, this isn't necessarily new information. This is stuff that we've been talking about for quite a while now. And initially, I was kind of skeptical about it all. I trust Nate, but I also trust that things change within the industry. There's so many unannounced things that end up, being rumors, and then you find out that these rumors were actually true. There's so much stuff that is talked about sort of behind the scenes that never comes to light and never comes to fruition, but it does exist. All because something doesn't release doesn't necessarily mean that it didn't ever exist, at least in some sort of shape and form. And when you look at the Switch's lineup in 2023, I think this is the year that this GameCube stuff makes sense, because you just have to look at what Nintendo has already sort of put out there as far as 2023 games are concerned, and there's not a lot. We have Fire Emblem Engage coming out in a matter of a few weeks. Great looking game, looks like a return to form for Fire Emblem, but it looks like a Fire Emblem game. Like, I don't think it's doing anything to reinvent the wheel or, push the system in terms of capabilities as far as graphics are concerned. It just looks like another really solid Fire Emblem entry. You have that Kirby game that released on the Wii that is getting remastered for the GameCube, for the Nintendo Switch, which I actually never played this game. I don't really know anything about it. I'm a little bit Kirby'd out, if I'm going to be honest with you. So I don't know if I'll end up checking this out. I guess I did say that I was going to be focusing more on reviews in 2023, so I guess I will check it out. And then, of course, we have the centerpiece for this system, which, of course, is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That game is supposed to come out in May, and those are the three games we know about. Those are the three games that are confirmed to be coming to the Switch in 2023. Now, going back to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I have said that I feel like this is sort of an endpoint for the Switch, because when you look statistically and just historically at previous Nintendo consoles ever since the GameCube, which was 20 plus years ago, Zelda games always either signal the start or the end of a console. The one sort of outlier was, of course, Skyward Sword, but when you look at the case of Skyward Sword, 1 year after Skyward Sword came out on the Nintendo Wii, the Wii U came out. Now, there were other projects that were released, which were essentially smaller projects. This is something that has been talked about, over the past week or so. People are saying that, Zelda's going to be the last big game for the Nintendo Switch. And then people say, well, what about Pikmin 4? What about Metroid Prime 4? Pikmin 4 is an interesting game. The Pikmin franchise is an interesting franchise, but it's a niche franchise. It's not a big banger of a thing. It's not really going to be a system seller. It's more of a game that if you own a Nintendo Switch and you're a fan of Pikmin, you'll probably pick it up. Metroid Prime 4, I think it's going to be that cross-generational game. I'm not even sure if it will come out on the vanilla Nintendo Switch. I feel like they might be trying to do some things that are really pushing this system to its limits. When you think about the whole fact that it's been radio silent about this game, when you take into account the fact that Digital Foundry said that the Switch Pro, the Switch Revision, did indeed exist in terms of a more powerful Switch, but ended up being scrapped in favor of something that was next generational because of the fact that they were trying to do it around COVID time. When you look at when the Switch OLED came out, timeline-wise, it does kind of make sense. But even if you take that out of the equation, say you don't believe Digital Foundry for whatever reason, and that's fine. You don't have to believe Digital Foundry. I just think from a production standpoint, the fact that this game had to be restarted once again with, Retro Studios at the helm instead of Bandai Namco, I think that really leads me to believe that this game, they might have just been doing a little bit too much. So how would you fill out the rest of the year? How would you fill out the potential 1 year plus between the Switch and the Switch's successor if it does come out in something like 2024? You would go back to your back catalog of games. Something like an F-Zero GX remake, a game that already ran at 60 frames per second in progressive scan mode on the Nintendo GameCube. You don't have to do a lot of work to that. A game like a Metroid Prime 1 remaster where you have new textures, maybe some new content in the game as well to sort of get people excited for Metroid Prime 4 to be coming out. Once again, that's a game that still looks gorgeous. You don't have to do a whole lot of stuff to that. A lot of games that released on the GameCube never got another release that were first-party Nintendo titles or second-party Nintendo titles, and I feel like there's a whole lot of stuff you could do with those games as far as bringing them into a modern audience. Now, we could sit here and debate, well, is this really worth $60 for an older GameCube game? I think it's a case-by-case basis. If you take F-Zero GX, you put in online multiplayer, you spruce up the graphics, maybe you add in a couple new tracks or a couple new racers in the game, I definitely think so. That's a game that still holds a lot of value and still a really great game. Something like Metroid Prime 1 Remaster. It all sort of is based down as far as how much work was done with it. But when you look at how these remasters are being accepted, The Last of Us Part 1 was The Last of Us, just a little bit prettier. It sold for $70 and it sold very well. I was definitely sort of against it. I felt like it was a cash grab, but that was because of the fact that the game released on the PlayStation 3, got a remaster on the PlayStation 4, and then got another remaster on the PlayStation 5. We're talking about 20-plus-year-old games here on the GameCube. The GameCube isn't a system that's easily accessible for a lot of people unless you are a retro game collector, so I think a lot of this makes sense. I honestly think like a lot of this makes sense. If you have Zelda as your swan song for the Nintendo Switch, then you have a couple titles like Pikmin 4, smaller, more niche titles for the system, and then you have your stuff like, of course, these GameCube remasters, maybe a 2D Mario. Even though 2D Mario is sort of very successful, I still feel like that could be a smaller budget production than something like a 3D Mario would be concerned. You have a very interesting second half of the year for the Switch. You have a very interesting second half of the year for the Switch. Now, of course, a Nintendo Direct could come along in January, February, March, whenever, and sort of throw all this on its head or maybe give us information about this stuff. But it's exciting, we're literally a day into 2023 and the rumor mill is already working overtime for what Nintendo is going to do in 2023. Are they going to talk about new hardware? Are they just going to focus on Zelda? What's going to be after Zelda? Will there be anything before Zelda? Are they going to expand their online services or anything like that? What sort of new games do they have announcements for? And what sort of information are we going to get from this company? I don't know, man. I don't know, but I'm looking forward to finding it out. I'm looking forward to all the companies this year, man. PlayStation with Spider-Man 2. Will Xbox be able to hit all their sort of metrics with games like Starfield? Will that actually come out in 2023? Because I don't feel too confident about that game. I just don't. I think it's a tail end of 2023 at the very earliest. And if it gets delayed till 2024, I'm not going to be surprised. But maybe you will be surprised. What do you think about this information from Nathaniel the Hatriel? His name's not really Nathaniel. I don't even know if his name's really Nate. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, I've been friends with this dude for like literally years. I know a lot of personal information about him, but I question whether his name is really Nate or not. Like, that's really weird to think about. That's really strange to think about. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell notification as well. Let's get that 500,000 subscribers this year. That's all I want. That's all. 500,000. Just give me 500,000 and I will be a happy boy. I don't need a full million. I don't ever see myself getting to 1 million. But you give me that 500,000, I'll be a happy boy. And I'll shut up. I'll never ask you to subscribe again because I'll be satisfied. And I just want to be satisfied. And as always, guys, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.